I would like to put some meaning in some of the words that we already went through. Starting from the simplest, Oilomis, worlds. What does world allude to? What is the unique principle that we refer to when we say world? And again, I'm introducing this by saying that this is going to be a deviation from what we're learning for a moment, but it will reveal to us what we're talking about. Prior to world, we talk about Oyer Makif. Yigul HaGodl Oyer Makif. And we said that the Makif is Makif for world. In other words, the Makif is the higher level. World is that which is enabled by the Makif. Therefore, we have to actually focus in for a moment back to the Makif, and then come back to world. And as usual, we use what we call the method of a moshel. The moshel is not something of a different resource. Moshel is illustrating this principle at a level that we all can relate to, that we all experience. Coming back to Makif Lo Ilomis. Makif Lo Ilomis are very broad words, something that encompasses worlds. Therefore, in order for us to kind of focus in on that, we have to find these two levels at our own level, in a smaller scale, then be able to translate it in the bigger scale. At the small scale, in the human being himself, within the human thought process, there is that which is called Makif, and that which is called world. In general, the difference is, in general, in terms of Kochas HaOda, we have, as we speak all the time, the upper Kochas was called Rotzen and Oinek. Then we have Seichel and Midos, and then all the way down to Machshava Dibur U'Mais. These are four very different levels in human experience. We'll start from the top. That's what we're trying to understand. Rotzen and Oineg are the qualities that refer to the Makif. which is higher than functional koiches. Every person, step back a moment, we're not born knowing alobase. You have to learn alobase. Not only complicated, the simplest thing, alobase, we have to learn it. But in order to learn alobase, we have to have been born with the ability to learn. What is, in fact, the ability to learn? What makes learning real? Here's the meaning of my question. If learning means you're learning something that you have no exposure to, it really does not make any sense, but you're learning something completely new. You're being told something, believe me, this is what it is. This is not called learning. Learning means that as soon as you learn anything, you have a personal relationship of affinity. You appreciate that you're learning something that you can relate to. This is what learning means. Therefore, in order to be able to learn, we have to have had something of a quality that enables us to find things to learn within that overall truth, overall reality. As we are learning, and we're learning new things that we have never learned before, we're continually discovering aspects of that within that which we already know. We don't ever jump out into total terrain that is totally strange, that we have a sense of its reality. We don't know much about it, but certainly we have the sense of its reality. This sense of its reality, this is the mativ element, the overall reality, overall truth, which we are born with, which we know without having to be taught about, taught it. We have to learn it. We have to learn things that are contained within it, that how we can negotiate the various pathways within this greater reality. But the fact that there is this reality, this is something which we are absolutely born with. Where is this natural knowledge come from? Very important point. This natural knowledge comes from our innate recognition that everything that we encounter, everything that exists, is sourced in a higher truth. It's called the divine truth. It is not based on its own existence. World does not have its own basis for existence. The existence of world is the divine will that it should be. Again, as I said, we're going to try and identify things on a clarity level. So we have a clear demonstration of this principle. Whatever we learn, whatever we encounter, whatever we experience, our experience is identified deeply within us. Now, this is part of the bigger truth that you already know, which we already know. The bigger truth we know because that's what we are born with. This is the neshama knowledge. From this knowledge, neshama knowledge, we can draw many, many principles, details that we identify within at a lower level, on the practical level. This practical level is what we're referring to as world. And here's an important principle in understanding the principle of world. We are walking on a road. We have no idea how long this road is. Moreover, we don't even know necessarily where this road is going to lead us to. But listen to this. One thing we know for sure, that we can follow this road indefinitely. We're never going to reach to the end of the world by walking on this road. There is no end. What does it mean there is no end? The meaning that there is no end is that this road is contained and it is describing a pathway for an endless reality. There is no limit as to how many different detours you can take. How many different pathways there may be in this world. And the reason that there is no limit for that is that the reality that contains all of these pathways is called makif. It is not put together from by the conglomeration of these pathways. It is something higher than the pathways that encompasses unlimited paths, different roadways. This unlimited resource is called a makif. What is the source of this makif. Anything that is created has to be with a limit. What is the source of this makif? This makif, as we mentioned many times, but before I go there, first we have to identify what we have in the world. In world where we have finite entities, we have to plan it out and see how we're going to build to make it happen. You build a house, you have to know the details how you build a house. Then there is a different level completely. This house, when we build a house, we build the structure of the house. We do not build that which allows for the house to be built. We could call it space. We do not create that. This is something which is given to us from a higher source. This is what enables worlds to be developed. This is the principle that the world is a creation. But prior to being created, Hashem wanted the world, wants the world. This Rotzin, gives the world a limitless resource, a limitless justification for being. Whatever you build, you have a plan of what you're going to build. But then the principle that there is such thing as building, that has no limit. This is what's presented and given by the creator of the world himself. This is called the divine will that it should be a world. This is called Makim Le'elomis. This is why it's called Makim Le'elomis, to worlds, because this Makif really is not just for one world or one aspect. It is for the worldliness in general. This is what enables there to be a development of world in any direction. This is what we call Makif. Having touched upon that, or having explained that, they have to go back to the next word, what's called Oil Makif. What is Oil Makif? Oil means light, revelation. This Makif aspect if you're talking about endless makif, it is conceivable that one can say, oh, I get lost in it. There's nothingness. Endless. And for this, the Rebbe provided what's called oil makif, which enables us to relate to the makif without getting lost in it. Yes, it is endless, and yet it is real. Because we sense at every turn, in every direction that we look, even though it's endless, that it is endless, but it's being provided for all the time. It is not endless because there is nothing there. It is endless because it is provided by a great source. This is called Oyer Makif. Oyer means illumination. And this illumination is Makif, is limitless. So it relates us to the source of this Makif. That's meant Oyer Makif. This is what enables us to function even in our world and to recognize that we can go into any direction in our world. And wherever we go, whichever turn we take, there is this makif reality, the divine reality that the Rebbe wants this little spot to be here and this little spot to be here. Everything has a divine meaning. This is makif lo ilo mois. It encompasses worlds. It enables, it allows worlds to be. How many worlds? Unlimited. Because this is a divine makif. So we kind of took a little bit of a break in order to give us some kind of a definition to some of the terms that we're constantly encountering. Makif, Elomes, and Shachos Elomes, and so forth. Now, let's get into the Maimah that we're learning.
Can I just ask, clarify something?
Yes, sure.
Or then is the means by which the Jew, the human being, traces or is aware that everything is coming from the divine source, the makif.
That's correct.
I guess as we'll go along in this class, we'll understand how you identify, or maybe it's a neshama thing, that the neshama is at work using the or. Using the or to everything to the makif, to the divine source.
The or is what enables the neshama to function. And you don't have to go back to the neshama. To function in the world itself, as I mentioned before. You're walking on earth. Can you possibly walk on earth and perceiving that perhaps you're going to come to the end of this earth? You're going to fall over a cliff. Somehow, you don't have that concern. So this makif reality in the world is what we're experiencing all the time. The world is created and is representing the makif source at every level, even on the simplest worldly level, as illustrated in this experience, that as you're walking earth, you're not concerned that you're going to reach the end of the earth.
So you have this understanding that there is a makif at work always. I know it's not your understanding so much, but it's just like an embedded knowledge of the person that the makif is enabling everything.
That's correct. And it is such a fundamental knowledge that you don't even question it. You don't reflect on it. You're not even aware of it. In terms of on the seichel level.
And what is the or in this understanding this? You don't even reflect on it. What part is the or playing in this?
The or is that which makes you realize that this endless and limitless reality is real. It is intended.
The or brings it from a, so to speak, subconscious to a conscious level?
It gives it it gives it meaning. It says you're not walking in nothingness, you're walking in reality.
Is this a thought process?
No. Let me explain. You're functioning in the world. Yes, Baruch Hashem, we have Torah and mitzvahs, we have rules and laws and so forth. But let's say if you were not aware of the mitzvahs, as you're functioning in the world, would you think that any action is appropriate? You can build or destroy indiscriminately. You will be concerned, you'll be taken aback when you see something being destroyed. The Rebbe spoke about it the other day. Why is that? It is due to the fact that you recognize that whatever there is, whatever you encounter, has an overall value. And to destroy it is, in a sense, a crime, an affront to this greater reality. You may not feel the consequences immediately, you may not be chas v'sholem punished for it, but you are violating an important principle. This is a principal truth in the human consciousness without having to be reflecting or learning about it. Because we're aware that which enables us our limitless maneuver, limitless movement, is not nothingness, but rather it is a makiv leilomis. It is something which is provided for. And therefore you treat it with deference. You have respect for it. Even though it is limitless, you cannot possibly hurt the makif. So your concern is not damaging. Your concern is to behave appropriately in respect of this greater truth. This is what we call, this is a makif element in the world. Having done that, if you have any further questions, we went this far, so might as well, carry that to any length that is necessary. Okay.
Okay. You're inviting more questions. Is that what you're doing just now?
Yes, not because I'm curious for the questions, but because since we went this far, I'd like to know that we are clear on these principles.
So at the moment, it's almost as though we're trying to break down between the expression of Oyer Makif, the Makif part and the Oyer part. But it doesn't seem, it's not really two parts, right?
Absolutely.
We're using an expression, Oyer Makif, which is the whole thing. It's an Oyer that is Makif.
Oyer Makif is the means by which the Makif reaches us. It's called Oyer.
Is there such a thing as a Makif without Oyer?
Yes. There's a Makif that is higher than world.
So we're not talking about that Makif right now.
No.
Would it be too much to go back and ask this whole discussion, even though it began in this place with beginning to talk about a Makif that is higher than the original Makif we were talking about, Ak, Tiaru, Tata, but now in this whole discussion we're having, it seems as though we're actually talking about the Makif of Ak, or is that not so?
Yes, we are. That's what we're talking about.
We're talking about the lower Makif here.
In the terms that we are talking about, even the higher makif is also effective in the world.
So everything that we are saying now is what the word is now, relevant or related to both of these makifim that
The world.
Pardon me?
It's all related to world.
Including the higher makif.
Including my higher makif.
Okay? And we're not getting into, at the moment, the distinction between the higher and the lower makif. We're just trying to understand what does it mean that there's another makif.
Right.
Okay? Okay, I can...
The word makif by translation means surrounding. To surround, there has to be something that is surrounding.
Right.
It means it has to do with world.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the or is how the makif relates to the world. Me.
Yep. This makif aspect I feel compelled to mention this. The makif aspect is what enables there to be world. World may be aware of the makif aspect and may be unaware of the makif aspect. The makif is enabling world without the world being aware what enables it. Well, this is higher than world. Its effect is higher than being expressed in world. And this is exactly what we have just finished learning. At the beginning, at the beginning of this summer base. So we're saying there's makif le'ilomis achratim. It's makif le'ilomis, but there's no worldly means by which it can be grasped and understood and known. All right, so we're still at the end of the fourth line, Omam Yedua. And since we've gone to this depth and this level of detail, I would like to demonstrate this, how this is recognizable from our own experience, our own life. Clearly at a much lower level. Nonetheless, it is something which we recognize without identifying. Like we said earlier today, you're walking on the road. And you feel pretty secure walking on the road. On the pathway. It's on the road or it's just a jungle. You feel that you can walk in this direction endlessly. What is this endless pathway represent to you? How can you relate to it? How can you relate to it? There is nothing on earth that's endless. So how do you relate to this endless pathway? And here is the important principle in our relationship to our world. The endless pathway is not representing endlessness per se. Rather, it is representing a reality that is presented to you for your where you should live, where human beings should live. And it is presented in a manner that a human being can live without feeling any constraints. But do whatever he thinks of doing. Any direction that he wants to develop, he can go. This is how the world itself is made, is presented by the Creator. So that human being does not sense any kind of limiting constraints as to how big is the world. There is no world size that limits a human maneuvers. Because the Rebbe has so created it, has so revealed it, that when you're working in the world, you're working in a divine truth, in overall reality. You can say that this is a divine trick, but this is exactly what happened. There is not a logical way of explaining the sense of limitlessness that we are experiencing in the world. The only explanation that we have for that is this is how the Rebbe presents it to us, and the Rebbe wants us to experience it. Here is where we go back to connect to the divine source of the world. All right. Now I'd throw it open to questions. I think that I made a point which I wanted to make a long time ago. Okay.
Why do you say it's a divine trick?
Yeah, it's a divine trick because you have a finite world and it gives you infinite possibilities.
So this is why people can think of building the Empire State Building, for example, or of flying an airplane in the air.
Yes, or flying a Sputnik.
Right.
Everybody knows what a Sputnik is. This is before your time.
Uh-huh.
Not my time, his time.
Apollo.
Or also, this is why people can think of having, so it's not even totally wrong to think about a world which is, which has absolute justice and fairness and everything. That's also part of limitlessness, right?
That's correct. Absolutely. Why is it limitlessness? Because this is based on the divine presence.
So that's continuously being provided if we just didn't mess it up, basically.
All right.
So again, the infinity element is you're in a world of definition, but there are truly infinite possibilities and acts of infinite importance.
So the statement, there's not enough, quote unquote, is fundamentally wrong.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's not only enough, there's more than enough.
Yeah. The human being lives in the divine infinity, not in the finite world. And that's what's pointed out. We go and build Empire State Buildings into no man's land, so to speak.
Okay, so just to be clear, all the famine and war and disease is due to the element of limitation, but it's not meant to be that way. Or
it is due to abuse of the divine gift. It says in Shulchan Aruch, and the Gemara says, the Rambam brings it down, that the major source of a health impediment is overeating.
and eating the wrong foods. But again, we are in a world of time and space, so you might think that implies limitation, and once you have limitation, you have insufficient, you have an economy of scarcity. But today we're saying even though it's time and space, it does not have to be scarcity. That's very interesting. In fact, there's
If we spoke
yeah.
about this, this is a kind of a in your face response. People were concerned about scarcity, and then we developed means of production with such abundance that we are taking food and drowning it into the water to maintain a certain standard of price.
Yeah. Right. I remember they were talking about population explosion causing massive famine, and it never came about. The production of food outpaced any ability to consume it. So yeah, so what's our point? The point seems to be that even though it is time and space and there is definition, we have embedded within that infinite resource, yeah?
Yeah, but the term embedded in that is a little bit good. It is embedded in an infinite resource. It is embedded.
The time and space, the limitation, the definition, it itself is in a bigger makif that is infinite, yeah?
That's right.
And therefore what? And therefore, even though you do live in a context of time and space, and you shouldn't become a Oris de Tohu kind of character, but still into that flows a continual abundance. Would that be
Yes.
okay? Okay.
You live on a human level, but within that, using yod, you can develop indefinitely. You can build an Empire State Building if you wish, so wish.
Okay. So it's almost like you work with the parts, but the sum of the parts is always going to be, you're gonna always arrive at a new horizon, a new result. Even though you're working with a sum, you're working with definition and procedure, but yet you're going into amazing results, basically.
Right. And as we always, we have to make a little bit of a tweak. Some of the parts is an incorrect statement. The source for the parts. The parts do not create the overall reality. It is the source of the parts which is limitless.
Okay, good. And right, and that's why the sum of the parts is always more than. Okay, got it.
Man is at his best when he represents the divine, his divine source.
Okay, good. More correctly, man is recognizing the reality when he represents the divine source. Not at his best. This is not his best. This is the reality. He can be lying to himself and saying, "No, I'm working within the world," but this is not what happened. What the truth is. You could say, using this term, man is on his best, when man recognizes the divine presence in every one of his actions. To the extent of recognizing what enables him to take a step, as we spoke about it recently. It is a divine presence that enables him to take a step.
Okay, my next step is saying we are in a world where time and space is finite, and according to what we said, Or Makif gives us an idea of the infiniteness of time and space. How do we coordinate the worldly vision of time and space with the infinite, which refers from the shiur we spoke about to Or Makif?
Right. And the answer is very clear. Time and space is a means to use the infinite provision that the Rebbe gives. This is not the material that builds it.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm seeing smiles around. Shimei, are you davening for the third time now? And this is first.
Just getting started.
All right. This is time for davening. Is that correct? Or
I don't have a minion here, so I'm not under pressure.
uh-huh. Well, we can go into the next AYIN, but probably this will not be a wise thing to do because we won't be able to go in any meaningful depth. Therefore, we'll have to
Is there
take a break.
Is there a way to say this inyan, what we just did, in one or two sentences?
A what?
To say what the inyan is that we just completed in one or two sentences. Is there a way to summarize it?
The effect of the makif on the world. World is a building block, but it is source and it is enabled by a makif. It is not, which is above building block.
A makif that is not what?
That is above the concept of building block.
What did it mean the world is a building block?
World consists of many pieces built upon each other together.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That Shlomo Banda has left so this recording. Shlomo Banda is not here.
Therefore,
Okay.
A chutzpah. Okay.
Hey, have a good day.
Have a great day, everyone.
great
Have a
day, guys.
Thank you, Paltiel. Good morning, everyone.
Wonderful day.
Hi, Michael and babies. Hi, Daniel.
Bye.
Bye,
What's
Rabbi.
your name? What's your name?
Deze weer terugpaaien.
What?
Deze weer terugpaaien.
Oh boy, Jesus, Yitzchak pious. Hi, Jesus, Yitzchak.
Levi Yitzchak.
Beautiful.
Yeah, video is on.
No. No. No.
Everybody meet Yeshiv Yitzchak pious.
Hi, Yosef Yitzchak.
Hi, boy.
Hey, Shlomo.
Hi, Shlomo.
Yeah. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi.
Call to.
Kol tov v'tzlacha.
Look at that. We even had time for socializing a little bit. All right.
Well, Shlomo is not there to terminate the meeting, so I don't know how to get out.
You want something sweet with it, like craisins or some
Yes
or
or no?
some want a few of these?
No.
What happened with Bonda?
Hmm?
You got brackets? What happened to Bonda? Is this closed or not? I don't want to be heard. How do you get out of here?